"Can I sit here?" the one-legged girl asked the single dad. His answer left her in tears. The cold afternoon air followed her inside as the door chimed softly behind her. 24-year-old Amelia paused near the entrance, breathing a little heavier than usual, adjusting the grip on her crutches. Her prosthetic leg felt heavier today, maybe because she had been walking too much, or maybe because the weight she carried wasn't physical at all. She looked around the small cafe, noticing how every table was taken. People were laughing, talking, scrolling on their phones, living life the way she once did. She swallowed hard. She only needed a seat for a few minutes to rest her aching arms, but walking up to a stranger was always the hardest part. Especially after losing her leg last year, because people looked at her differently now. Some stared too long, some looked away too quickly, and some pretended she didn't exist at all. She tightened her ponytail and forced a smile, even though her chest felt tight. Then she saw them. One empty chair at a table where a man in his mid-30s sat with two kids. A curly-haired toddler sat on his lap, tapping a tiny hand on the table, while a slightly older boy sat beside him, drawing shapes on a napkin. They looked kind, warm, normal, the kind of family Amelia had once dreamed of having someday. She hesitated, her fingers trembling around the cold metal of her crutches. What if they said no? What if they stared at her leg? What if, "Daddy, look." The little girl pointed directly toward Amelia. Amelia froze. The father looked up, his eyes immediately landing on her. Not with judgment, not with pity, just noticing. Softly, calmly, she found the courage to take one step, then another, until she was standing beside their table. Hi, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry to bother you. All the tables are full and I just need to rest a bit. Can I sit here? She hated how nervous she sounded. The father blinked once, surprised, not at her leg, but at her trembling voice. His voice was deep, steady, and unexpectedly gentle. Of course, he said immediately, pushing the empty chair toward her. Please, sit. You don't have to ask twice. Amelia's heart stung at the kindness. She lowered herself into the chair, carefully placing her crutches beside her. The man offered a warm smile. I'm Daniel, he said. These are my kids, Liam and little Rosie. Rosie waved with both hands. Liam peeked shyly from behind his curls. Hi, Amelia said, her smile breaking through the fear. I'm Amelia. Daniel nodded, studying her face. Rough day. She let out a breathy laugh. More like a rough year. She expected him to shift uncomfortably, the way most people did when they didn't know how to respond. But he didn't. He didn't look at her leg once. Well, Daniel said softly, you're sitting now. And you're safe here. Safe. A word she hadn't felt in so long that hearing it almost hurt. Before she could reply, Rosie reached out and touched Amelia's prosthetic leg with her tiny hand. Amelia tensed. Kids were curious, but adults were usually embarrassed. What happened to your leg? Rosie asked innocently. Amelia opened her mouth, unsure how to answer. But Daniel stepped in, voice calm. Sweetheart, remember what I told you. Some people have different bodies, and that's completely okay. Rosie nodded, then looked at Amelia. Does it hurt? Amelia shook her head softly. Not anymore. Rosie smiled. Pure, unfiltered acceptance. Amelia felt tears sting her eyes. Daniel noticed, his expression tightening with concern. You don't have to explain anything, he said quietly. Not to us. That simple sentence cracked something inside Amelia. People always wanted explanations, pity, curiosity. But, not him, not them. She felt warmth spread through her chest. I was in an accident, she said eventually. Last winter. I'm still adjusting. Daniel nodded slowly, the way someone nods when they understand more than they say. I get that, he murmured. I lost my wife around the same time. Amelia's breath caught. Suddenly the heaviness between them felt shared, not one-sided. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I'm sorry too, he replied, letting out a long exhale. Life changed overnight for both of us, huh? She nodded, her throat tightening. Sometimes I feel like the world moved on without me. Daniel looked at her with eyes that had clearly lived through the same storms. It didn't, he said quietly. You're still here. That means something. Amelia couldn't hold it anymore. A tear slipped down her cheek. She quickly wiped it, embarrassed. Hey, Daniel said softly. No need to hide that. Strong people cry too. Strong. No one had called her that in months. She felt her chest loosen for the first time in a long while. Rosie suddenly leaned toward Amelia and placed her tiny hand on hers. Don't cry, she whispered. You can sit with us always. Always. Amelia smiled through the tears. And for the first time in a year, she felt seen. Not as the girl with one leg, but as a person, a soul, a story worth sitting with. Open Book Chapter 2, 900 words. Deep emotional impact, strong retention. For a moment, Amelia simply sat there in stunned silence, as if Rosie's fragile little voice had reached a part of her heart she didn't even know still worked. The cafe noise softened around her, fading into a kind of warm, muffled glow. She stared at the child's tiny hand resting on hers, then slowly looked up at Daniel. His expression wasn't pity, it wasn't discomfort, it was something steadier, human connection, the kind people search a lifetime for. Amelia swallowed the thick lump in her throat. Thank you, she whispered, brushing away a tear. I didn't expect today to go this way. Daniel laughed softly. Trust me, neither did we. Today was supposed to be our no plans lazy day. But sometimes the best moments aren't planned. Amelia nodded, breathing more steadily now. I'm still learning to adjust to everything. The looks, the whispers, losing my job, starting physical therapy. I thought I was finally fine today, but then the pain came back. It gets overwhelming. Daniel leaned forward slightly, his voice gentle yet firm. You don't have to explain your pain to make it valid. She blinked, taken aback. Most people don't say things like that. Most people don't listen, he said simply. Her lips parted. For the first time in months, she felt heard without needing to justify her existence. Liam, quiet until now, suddenly spoke. Do you miss running? Amelia's heart clenched. Kids always asked the real questions. Every single day, she admitted with a soft laugh. But I'm trying to learn new things. I'm learning how to live differently instead of wishing for what I lost. Liam nodded thoughtfully. My mom used to say that too, before she got sick. Amelia felt her breath hitch. She didn't have to ask. She knew. Daniel gently placed a hand on his son's back. We're all learning new lives, he said quietly. That sentence, so simple, hit Amelia harder than anything else. She'd spent months believing she was alone in her struggle, trapped in a world that had forgotten her. But here, at a cafe table with a widowed father and two fragile-hearted kids, she realized something extraordinary. Pain didn't isolate people. Pain connected them. Amelia shifted slightly, adjusting her prosthetic leg. She winced. Daniel noticed immediately. Are you all right? Yeah, she whispered, just saw. Long walk. Without hesitation, Daniel stood up and gently lifted her crutches, placing them closer. You tell me if you need help, he said softly. You don't have to struggle alone. Those words, so simple, but so rare, made Amelia's eyes sting again. Thank you, she said. Really, you helped us too, Daniel replied. Amelia frowned. How? Daniel looked at his kids and smiled bittersweetly. I think they needed a reminder that strength comes in different forms. And that life doesn't end when something breaks. Amelia's breath caught. For months, she had seen only what she'd lost. Her leg, her job, her independence, her confidence. But sitting here, she realized something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time. She was still capable of giving something meaningful to others. Rosie suddenly tugged on Amelia's sleeve. Can you come again? Amelia smiled through the emotion swelling in her chest. If your daddy doesn't mind. Daniel looked surprised, then immediately shook his head. Mind, Amelia, you're welcome anytime. This table, it has room for you. Her throat tightened again. Why are you being so kind to me? Daniel paused. Because someone once helped me on a day when I felt like my world had ended. I never forgot it, and maybe today, it's my turn to pass that kindness on. Amelia lowered her gaze, overwhelmed. She had walked in expecting rejection, expecting stares. Instead, she found people willing to share space with her heart. Liam suddenly grinned. Dad makes the best hot chocolate. Want some? Amelia laughed unexpectedly, a sound she hadn't heard from herself in months. I'd love that. Daniel stood, walked to the counter, and returned with 2 steaming cups, one for her, one for Rosie. As Amelia wrapped her fingers around the warm mug, she felt a strange feeling she couldn't name. Comfort, belonging, hope. She took a small sip, letting the warmth spread through her chest. Thank you, she whispered, for giving me a seat. Daniel shook his head slowly. No, he said softly. Thank you for choosing our table. Amelia couldn't stop the tears this time. But they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of relief. Tears of healing. Tears of a heart finally being held gently after being broken for so long. She wiped them with a shaky laugh. Wow, I didn't think a cup of hot chocolate would make me cry today. Daniel smiled. Healing shows up in strange places. Amelia looked at him, really looked at him, and realized, she didn't feel invisible anymore. She didn't feel like the girl with one leg. She felt human, maybe even hopeful for tomorrow. Rosie suddenly rested her head on Amelia's arm. You can sit with us again, the little girl murmured sleepily. Amelia kissed the top of her curls. I'd like that, she said, voice trembling. More than you know. And as she sat there, surrounded by warmth she thought she had lost forever, Amelia realized something life-changing. Sometimes the smallest question, can I sit here, isn't about a chair. It's about finding a place where your heart is allowed to heal. She had found that place today. And maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something new. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more emotional stories. Your one click motivates me to create better, deeper content for you every day.